Hi, good afternoon everyone. My name is Sam from Net Registry. I just want to check the voice audio before I start the webinar. Can everyone listen to me loud and clear? Thanks, David. Okay, perfect. Now I'm just going to take another 2 minutes before I start the webinar. One of the reasons why we're doing this webinar on pay-per-click campaign is because recently Google has come out in the open and said that um, if you're doing your Google AdWords or so on pay-per-click campaigns, you definitely are going to get better conversions. Now, they're not saying that if you do Google AdWords, they're going to rank you high, but according to them, the amount of conversions that happen through pay-per-click channels is a bit more than the normal organic traffic. So before I start the webinar, I would like to just throw in a questions to the audience just to find out exactly what is the kind of people we have in this room. So just give me 1 minute. I'm just going to ask you a very simple question. So based on that, I know exactly at what speed I need to continue this webinar and what kind of information I really need to focus on. Okay, that's good enough. So let's have a look at where people stand. So I'm assuming a lot of you guys in this room are actually doing Google AdWords on their own. Okay, that's perfect. Now let's get started. So in the next 60 minutes, what I'm going to be covering is mainly to do with, why is Google AdWords or Yahoo advertising or Facebook getting more and more important, and most importantly is if you're doing it on your own, what are the things that you need to watch out for? Because unfortunately, 70% of the people who do Google AdWords on their own, they get it wrong. Either because they don't understand how the whole Google AdWords things work, or secondly, they don't have the time to manage it properly. You need to understand that when you spend money on Google AdWords, it's an auction every time. So someone is going to get better results, someone is not going to be successful. Okay, and at the same time, every time someone clicks on your result, it's going to cost you. So it's really important to first understand, does your business need Google AdWords, or in other words, is Google AdWords, right for your business? Because if it's not right for your business, it's not going to convert for you. A lot of times, I literally compare something like Google AdWords, like in terms of a marketing channel. Like there are very few companies today who actually see value in going to an exhibition and participating in an exhibition. Okay, exhibitions are kind of slowly dying off, mainly because every year, the same event, less and less companies are advertising. But at the same time, what you'll realize in some of these exhibitions, that there are certain companies that they have been there for the last couple of years. So look at Google AdWords just like someone who goes to an exhibition to participate. Okay, the great thing about being in an exhibition is that people come to you and have a conversation. Okay, you can generate a good quality of lead as opposed to you simply having a website and having a sales team in your office who does cold calls. So there's definitely a couple of benefits on looking at how you can use Google AdWords, but then at the same time it comes at a price. So you got to make sure that when you spend money on search engine marketing or pay-per-click, you're putting it at the right place, and also you're displaying ads at the right time. So in the next 60 minutes, I'm actually going to cover about how Google AdWords really work. I do a lot of workshops in the office or sometime in places like Melbourne. And what is interesting is that when I speak to people about Google AdWords, especially people in the room, I ask them, how many of you do Google AdWords on their own? A lot of them say yes. But what was really surprising is 90% of people didn't even know how Google AdWords actually worked, or why does someone come right on top. So I'm going to talk about what actually works on Google AdWords, what's the logic behind it, what does Google give importance to, so you can take that information and then maybe fine tune your existing campaign. If you have any questions, you can basically chat the messages at the end of the event, or alternatively you can always send me an email and I'm happy to further consult you as to what you should look at. So to start with, with most businesses, okay, when you look at online marketing, you look at SEO, you look at AdWords, you look at social media, Yahoo advertising, email marketing, and Facebook. Unfortunately, you can't do all of them. So you got to decide on which will benefit your business. Okay, and a lot of times I've seen people just jump from one marketing strategy to the other. Okay, so before even you think about which is a good strategy for you, you need to understand, what are your customers doing, or when you're selling something, is there something specific that's going to help you, get inquiries onto you or to make the phones ring. So it's not a matter of what you can afford. It's mainly to understand is what form of marketing can give you a better result. Okay, SEO, for instance, is a long-term strategy. Okay, unfortunately with SEO you can't target hundreds of keywords at the same time. Okay, secondly, you look at Google AdWords. Google AdWords is quite effective, quite quick, but it's kind of becomes more and more expensive depending upon the kind of industry you're into. Then you got social media, which is kind of very difficult to measure a return of investment. There are very few companies who actually do social media the right way. Unfortunately, social media is not a sales channel, a direct sales channel. It's more of a customer service channel. And then, instead of Google AdWords, you can always look at something like Yahoo advertising, which is slowly picking up, and it's much more cheaper than Google. Email marketing has always been the good old email marketing, but it all depends upon how you build up a customer base. And then the new entry, to the whole area is Facebook advertising. It started off with a lot of noise. It's slightly slowed down. Very few people have seen benefit out of Facebook advertising. So as a business, you need to really understand. Okay. Is anyone having problem with the audio? Anyone else? Okay. Okay, I'll just anyway, I'll just try to readjust my mic setting. Just give me a second. Okay, Karen, are you still having a problem? Is your mic too close to the speakers? Is that my sound is going back from your speakers? Okay, let's see if this is any better. Anyway, so just getting back to the the slide. So depending upon what kind of business you're into, or where do you want to attract customers, you need to decide the right kind of strategy. Okay. Now, actually, let's look at, if you look at your website, over a period of time, it's going to get traffic, no doubt, whether you do any form of marketing or not. But the challenge is, where are you getting it most from? With most businesses, a large portion of traffic comes to the website organically from search results. The next most popular area would be someone directly typing in your domain name. Okay, so when you look at this chart, it will show you that a pay-per-click is not a huge component of your traffic. Okay, so more people would come to you organically. If you look at Google Analytics, it's exactly the same story. Social media is slowly picking up. Okay, but what is really interesting is not where you're getting your traffic from. More importantly, where do most businesses get conversions from? Okay, so it's kind of a situation where, yes, pay-per-click, you're getting less amount of traffic, but at the same time you're getting better conversions. So if you do your pay-per-click properly, you may get better results. So when you look at these graphs, now I've taken some of this information from leading SEO forums and blogs and so on. So if you need any references, I can send you this. But you'll see that if you look at this graph, it clearly shows that even though people directly are coming to your website, okay, those people who come to your website directly typing your domain name is someone that you've already engaged using some other channel. Maybe someone bought a product from you. Once they bought the product, they would like to go to your website to register the product or look for support. Okay, so direct traffic is normally not acquisition unless you've done some other forms of marketing. Okay, the same thing goes with organic. When someone goes online, they actually go to literally 3 different stages. So stage 1 is what you call as a research mode, and that's where a lot of your organic traffic comes from. Okay, stage 2 is comparison mode, where people start comparing products, and stage 3 is what you call as a buying mode. And I think that's where Google AdWords really works well, because you can give the right kind of message to people at that particular stage. So it's really important to understand that imagine if you are doing Google AdWords and you switch off your Google AdWords for 2 months. Do you see an impact on the number of sales and inquiries you get? If you're seeing an impact, even if it's a 10% impact, you know that it works. Okay, the next thing also quite important, where most people get it wrong, is most businesses try to go after keywords which are searched the most. Now the top 100 keywords for your business, let's assume there are a lot of searches happening for that, but what is interesting is that those keywords don't give you the traffic that you're after. So when you look at this graph, it will show you that the top 100 keywords, which could be searched in thousands or millions, okay, they give you very little conversions, whereas the keywords which give you less traffic give you much better conversions. So within your online marketing strategy, when you especially do your keyword strategy, it's just not looking at the keywords that are most searched for. Okay, look at the keywords which we call as long tail keywords. Long tail keywords are okay, sure, I'll definitely email you a copy of the presentation, Kelly. I'm sorry about the audio, but yeah, so long tail keywords are something which is not really searched for, but they are much better in conversions. So when you look at your keyword strategy, I think it's important to understand that it's not about the quantity of traffic, but the quality of traffic that matters. It's like getting a phone call for your business. You don't want someone who's at the start of the buying process. You rather find someone who's made up their mind. All you want is them to give them the price and get the sale over. Well, it might vary if your business is slightly different where you need to consult, but with most businesses or most call centers prefer calls coming with someone saying, I want to buy this product, this is my credit card. Okay, so before you go on to the pay-per-click form of marketing, it's really important to understand, first of all, is that the right form of marketing for your business? Okay, unfortunately it doesn't fit every business. For example, if you're selling a product where the customers only come to you once in the entire life cycle of their journey with you, and if your average sale price of your product is only $25, how much can you really spend to get someone to buy from you? So it's really important before you even start spending on Google AdWords is trying to understand, is it good for your business or not? Now with most businesses, they normally have 2 different call to action. One is they have an e-commerce store, so if anyone goes to the website, they would like people to buy from them. The other one is where you would love to generate leads so that someone goes to your website, reads about your information, wants more, and then you've got a sales team who can actually take it to the next level. So you first need to understand as to where do you stand, how much of your business depends upon your website. So when you look at something like e-commerce, now e-commerce websites are a bigger challenge when it comes to search engine optimization. What you realize is, most often when you do a search on Google for certain products, okay, the percentage of websites that come up with static pages, are much more compared to e-commerce stores. That's because, with e-commerce stores, the websites pages are dynamically getting updated. You could have 500 products selling, on your website. So imagine if you have to do search engine optimization for that. It's a long process. The other thing also is that, if you look at doing an e-commerce product, you could have certain products within your business where, you can actually look at getting, more and more people onto your business. Okay. See, it's not necessary that pay-per-click is only meant for e-commerce. It's all about, if you got a product where the product needs to be sold by someone in the sales team, then get people to give them enough information so that they can pick up the next step where they can actually call you up. Okay, so even if you are trying to attract people to sign up for memberships, okay, now depending upon the value of your membership, like let's say if your membership is only $25-$35, you don't need to spend a lot of time convincing someone. Your website can do it. But if your membership is like an annual membership which is like $10,000, a salesperson on the phone can do a much better job. But when someone comes to your website and says, okay, this is what I want to do, you got to give them enough information for them to see value in it so they can speak to you. Okay, when you look at e-commerce transactions over the last couple of years, the amount of money that people spend without hesitation has increased drastically. Maybe 5 years back, the only thing people bought online was books and DVDs, which were like anything between $10 to a maximum, $50 or $60. But now, people are happy to spend up to $500 without hesitation. So even if you're selling a membership worth $200, if you're able to show that value on a website, telling the benefits of what they will get, I'm pretty sure it can work for you. So whether you have an e-commerce store or an information-based website, I think your call to action on a website should basically go with what the customer is after. When someone is going on an e-commerce journey, or they're looking at buying something, it's all about how quickly they can buy from your website. But on the other hand, if you're trying to target people to generate leads for your sales team, or you want inquiries to come in so that you could call them up and consult them, then you got to work accordingly. Normally when you do lead generation, because the transaction doesn't get completed at that particular time, you either need to give them a good reason for them to contact you, or more importantly, give them an incentive for them to take the next step. Okay, if you are trying to generate leads, it's a good thing where you give people different ways to contact you. They can contact you by email, they can contact you by telephone, or if you have chat, whatever it is. It's all about, someone just taking one additional step towards your business. The other thing also to look at is, a lot of businesses, when they look at doing Google AdWords, I've spoken to so many small businesses. They spend maybe 2 or 3 months doing Google AdWords, and after 3 months they look at how many sales they've got, and they say, it's not profitable. So when you look at measuring the return of investment on Google AdWords, don't just look at the conversions, look at the things that you've achieved. So for example, the first thing you've achieved is that if you spend $500 a month on Google AdWords, and if your average cost per click, let's say, is $1, you have managed to get 500 people who were looking out online for the products and services offering to your website. Okay, now most of us don't really react straight away. Sometimes it might take 2 or 3 visits for someone to get convinced. So look at pay-per-click not just as the end result of getting sales. Look at it as a branding exercise. It's like reassuring a brand. It's telling people, okay, you know what, I've heard this brand somewhere, maybe let me click on it. People are looking at Google AdWords now. Most companies are looking at it from a branding point of view, a remarketing strategy point of view, an email marketing point of view. So just don't focus on how much of revenue you've got. Okay. And a lot of times, most businesses they look at the actual sale value of the product and say, I'm selling a product worth $50, and my customers, if I spend $50 at them, it's not worth it. If you've got a lot of services to offer, okay, if you've got a life cycle of products to offer to your customers, it's worthwhile for you to spend that money, because your first transaction may not give you a profit, but then you've got a customer for the next couple of years, or depending on what you do. And that's exactly what we do with Net Registry. We spend a lot of money on Google AdWords, and acquisition is purely based on domain names. The cost per click for domain names for us, is literally $10 a click, and it almost takes us 20 clicks to get one sale. So we spend $200 to sell a domain name worth $25, on which we make $5. But the way we look at it is that it's just not that first sale. Out of every 5 people who buy domains on Net Registry, 3 of them buy web hosting. Out of every client who hosts with us, 70% of them stay with us for at least 3 or 4 years. So when I put all that value onto it, and then I look at my total, return of investment is much, much bigger. But if I look at the first transactional value and say, it's not worth it, I'll never do Google AdWords. Okay. So you got to look at the bigger picture as to it's just not the sales. Okay. I mean, how much would you pay to get someone or to come in front of someone? That's what it is all about. Okay. We used to do yellow pages. Okay. Definitely, this is much better than spending money on yellow pages, because when someone goes online to search for something, they're in a buying mode. It's an initiative by the seller, by the buyer, not by the seller, like yellow pages or TV ads or whatever it is. So it's all about getting in front of people at the right time. One of the biggest thing about, I would say, any kind of marketing is that if you cannot measure it, then how do you know whether it's successful or not? And I think that's what Google AdWords has been really great at. You can measure the success of Google AdWords or Yahoo advertising and so on based on the end result. So if you have an e-commerce store, and if someone comes to your store, makes a purchase, you can actually find out what keyword actually generated that sale. So moving forward, you know how to fine-tune your campaign. So one of the biggest key benefits of doing your pay-per-click is that it's highly measurable. Okay. The other thing also is it's all about driving traffic to your website. Sometimes I've spoken to businesses. They say, I rank high on search results. Why should I bother spending money on Google AdWords? Well, it's common sense, right? If you have a retail store and you are on a busy street, imagine if you had 2 stores in the same street. Won't you get twice the traffic? Because that's what it's all about. So if you manage to rank highly organically on Google, spending a bit money on Google AdWords will help you not only get highly visible, but the chances of someone clicking on you is much higher, because you're 2:10 compared to the other people on that search result. So it's really important to measure, look at, not just traffic, not just conversion, look at, the kind of brands you get. I mean, one of the good things to do is, is to bid for your own brand name. I know it sounds a bit funny, but, the cost per click for your brand name will be only, anything between 10 cents to maybe maximum of 50 cents. But the more number of clicks you get, you're giving Google the right signal. So Google thinks that, okay, a lot of people are clicking on your ad must be good. So it improves your click-through rate. As your click-through rate improves, your quality score increases. I'm going to talk about quality score in a couple of minutes, but the bottom line is that if more and more people click on your ad, Google is keen to have your ads running for a longer time. So in other words, they're happy to charge you lesser than someone who's desperate, because they feel end of the day, if someone is clicking on the ad, the user experience is really good. So don't be afraid to bid for your own domain company name, even if it's going to cost you money, because it only helps you to reduce your overall cost of Google AdWords. I guess one of the biggest advantage of Google AdWords is that even if you don't have a website, you can still create a landing page and test the market. Okay, and it's very important because nowadays a lot of businesses, they think about starting an online presence. The first thing they do is they spend money designing a website. Now sometimes people finish their website in 1 month, someone takes 6 months. And imagine after spending 6 months of waiting for your website to come up, you spent a lot of money, you got nothing left for advertising. What is the end result? You literally do not sell anything. So the good thing about Google AdWords is that the moment you start a campaign, within the next couple of hours, it's already attracting customers. But it all depends upon how well you actually set it up and manage it. Okay, a lot of businesses, what they do is they set up a Google AdWords campaign and don't even bother to log in for a month. That's pretty bad. If you're going to be doing Google AdWords, you need to have some kind of discipline in how you do it. You got to make sure you're constantly monitoring what is working, what is not working, what is not working, what is not converting. It's very important to literally stop running those campaigns. You don't want to bid for keywords which don't convert for you. Okay, the other good thing also is with AdWords is that you can specify which part of the country you want to target. You can specify which time of the day you want to run your ads for. And more importantly, even if you got a small budget, let's say if your monthly budget is only $200 a month, okay, don't run your ads for every day in the month. Maybe run your ad twice a week, because you need to have enough traffic to get a conversion. So that's the kind of flexibility actually Google AdWords gets to the table for you. So you can decide on when to run the ads, who can see your ads, and so on. However, what's important is, and this is where people start getting it wrong. I've spoken to a lot of businesses and I asked them, do you do Google AdWords or do you plan to do? And the next thing I think most companies who provide Google AdWords ask you is, how much of money would you like to spend? Okay, so that's a wrong way of approaching your return of investment. It's not about how much you can afford to spend. It's about what kind of results you want, and you got to work backwards. So what is important is to understand not how much you want to spend, but what is going to be your CPA or cost per action, because then you can work backwards and decide what your budget is. Okay, it's no point running the ads just because you want to run the ads or just because you have the budget. If you do not know what your cost per acquisition is, or how much a profit you want to make out of it, then it's not worthwhile. A lot of times I've gone back to businesses and said that Google AdWords is good, but it's not meant for your business, because it's no point doing any kind of marketing if it doesn't convert. And for that to happen, the most basic thing is make sure you've got conversion tracking, because if you're not tracking the success of your campaign, you got no way to find out whether it works or it doesn't work. So if you're running Google AdWords, make sure that you set up some kind of conversion tracking on your website, whether it's an e-commerce store or whether it's a lead generation kind of website. Make sure that you can track the success about your campaign. So how do you go about calculating your cost per acquisition? Okay, the first thing you need to determine is what is your conversion rate. The next thing you're going to look at is, okay, what's your gross profit. Then you can work out on your cost per acquisition, look at your net profit, and then finally decide on how much you want to spend. Believe me, 70% of the people do it the other way around. They decide on how much they want to spend and then try to make the business profitable. It doesn't work that way. You got to take the total different approach. It's a common saying, right? You got to spend money to make money, but you got to make sure you're spending it the right place. So how do you go about figuring out your conversion rate? Conversion rate is nothing but the percentage that it takes for people to convert. So for example, if you've got, as I said in this, if you've got 4,000 people going to your website, and out of those 4,000 people, you get around 80 conversions. The conversions could be someone filling an inquiry form, someone making a purchase, or someone making a phone call. Okay, so in this case, for example, the conversion rate, let's say, is 0.02. So you know what your conversion rate is. Okay, the next thing you're going to do is look at, okay, that's my conversion rate. Okay, and surprisingly, with most businesses today, the conversion rates are practically on single digits. There are very few businesses which have got conversion rate more than 10%. So the next thing got to look at is, okay, is it profitable for you? So you take your sale price, you look at what is the cost of good, and look at what your gross profit price is. So if you're selling something worth $125, your cost is $65, so your gross profit is $60. The next thing is deciding on what is your marketing budget for getting that sale. So that means, what's your cost of marketing? So for example, if you say that of the way most people, when they in a plan of selling a product price, or when they plan a selling price, they look at the cost of goods, then they look at the cost of sales or cost of marketing. That could be cost of a salesperson, the cost of the marketing medium they take. So in this case, if the marketing margin is 15%, okay, then you know that for you to, your cost per acquisition is literally gonna be, $18.75, because that's what it's going to cost you to get a customer. So if you're not able to make that, then you know that it's not going to be profitable. So understanding your cost per acquisition is really important to make sure that the AdWords things work for you. Okay, once you know your cost per acquisition, once you know your gross profit, then you know what the net profit is. So this is how you literally need to plan your campaign. Okay, unfortunately today most businesses get at least 2 or 3 phone calls a week from an SEO or an AdWords company saying, give us X amount of dollars, and we'll make your phones ring, or we'll get inquiries. Now, if you do not take this approach, what is going to happen is that you literally are going to get ripped off, because the salesperson who's calling you from these pay-per-click programs, they have got a ready-made pitch. All they tell you is that spend $500 and you'll get 5 sales. Okay, they have no idea as to whether it's profitable for you, what your cost per acquisition is, and the whole thing literally doesn't work out. Okay, I mean, just from my own experience, I've been doing Google AdWords SEO for a long time. What I've seen is that a lot of businesses start doing what they call as search engine optimization. After 12 months, they realize, what, I spent so much of money doing search engine optimization, I'm not selling. Okay, I'm not getting anything. Yes, I might be on the first page of Google for 1 or 2. I'm not selling. So what should I do next? The next thing the same person jumps onto is doing Google AdWords. So they do Google AdWords for 3 or 4 months. They realize that, I've spent $2,000 doing Google AdWords, but my sales are not gone up. Okay, so they stop doing Google AdWords thinking it's not profitable, and say, what, I was better off doing search engine optimization, because at least I don't have to pay when someone clicks. So there's a lot of confusion, and there are very few businesses or the service providers who will give you the right direction. I think what you got to look at is whether you do SEO, whether you do AdWords, or you do social media, it's only a part of a solution. All those services that you go for, whether it's AdWords, they'll only get people to your doorsteps. They're not going to help you convert. So you got to think beyond that as well. Not just driving people. Yes, it is important to drive the right kind of people, but that doesn't mean that if you picked up the right keywords and people are coming to your website, they're going to buy from you. Okay, so once you have decided your cost per acquisition CPA, then you can work back and say, what, I know it's going to take me X amount of clicks to get a sale. So what is the maximum amount I can spend? So this is how you literally go back and work out your cost per click. It's a funny thing, because a lot of companies that sell Google AdWords, the first thing they ask you, how much do you want to spend? What's your daily budget? And so on. Which is not focused on your benefit, is focused on their benefit, because they would come back and say, okay, you got a budget of $500, we can manage a Google AdWords for you, and we will take $100 or whatever it is. It's really important to make it happen. The other thing also you got to understand is that just like you you're running Google AdWords, there are a couple of other companies that do exactly the same thing. So you got to do it right. One of the biggest challenges with most people doing Google AdWords is they have no clue what makes Google put someone right on top. A lot of times I've asked people, why is someone on number one position in Google? The answer is that, what, they must be paying the highest. But funny enough, the person who's right on top on Google on sponsored listing, it might be paying much lesser than someone who's on position 2 or position 3. And believe me, a lot of people don't know how the whole Google AdWords things work. Most people think it's all about your maximum cost per click, and that's where it goes really wrong. You got to understand from Google's point of view. If Google was going to just blindly take everyone's money and say, if you're going to pay more, I don't care what you have on your website, I'm going to rank you high, you'll stop trusting Google. So it's in Google's interest that they give good value to someone who clicks on the ad. So for it to happen, Google look at a couple of factors. One of the most important factors they look at is what you call as your quality score. It's a way Google actually measures, how good your website or your landing page is. So I'm going to send you a copy of the presentation. Okay, when you go through it later on, you'll understand exactly how this whole thing works. So the first thing you need to find out is, how does Google really measure who should be right on top? It's not only the price. So Google looks at first thing called as quality score. Now, quality score is actually a combination of three things. Okay, it looks at, first thing is your click-through rate. So for example, in a day, if there are 100 people going to your website or onto Google, and 100 people see your ad, it's called as an impression. But out of the 100 people, if only one person clicks on it, your click-through rate is 1%. But imagine if 20 people click on it, your click-through rate is 20%. So what Google says is that if your click-through rate is high, that means your marketing message is attracting potential visitors. Google doesn't have the time or doesn't have someone manually looking at each and every ad. It's an automated thing. So they got to look at some of those trigger points. So one of the trigger points for them is your click-through rate. The next thing Google looks at is basically, when someone clicks on the ad, where do they land up on? So they look at, how long does it take for the website to load up? So that's why sometimes, businesses have what we call as a one-page landing page for Google AdWords. It's all about user experience. Imagine, you click on an ad and you go to someone's homepage, and then you got to spend another 10 minutes searching for the product. It's a nightmare. You just hit the back button. What also is interesting is that when someone looks at the natural results, okay, there's a window of 6 to 10 seconds before they hit the back button. But when someone looks at Google AdWords, that window is much more smaller. It could be anything between 3 or 4 seconds. So imagine if someone on a mobile device, and especially if someone on Vodafone, goes on to your search result, on Google, clicks on it, and your web page doesn't load for 5 or 6 seconds. They just hit the back button. So that's a bad user experience. So even if you have the right kind of products and the price, doesn't matter. So Google looks at that quality score. So they look at the how quickly your landing page loads. The next thing also Google looks at is how relevant is your ad. That means if you bid for the word called as let's say used cars, okay, Google knows that the results that come up talking about used cars is better than someone talking about car insurance or and so on. So it's really important that you make Google understand that if Google plans to send you across to a specific page, okay, the end result is going to be good. So what Google does is says, I'm happy to do a lot of things provided, okay, these things are fixed. So Google looks at a couple of things. It says, before I put you in the top slot, I want to make sure that your quality score is good. So quality score affects a couple of things. It affects whether you come on the first page of Google. It talks about whether Google should actually display your ad or not. And then more importantly, it also finds out or helps you reduce your cost per click. So in other words, better quality score means you're paying lesser for your ads, because Google is happy to keep your ads published for more time in a day because they feel that the user experience is really good. So the bottom line is it's all about your ad rank. The better ad rank you have, the lesser you pay and you get better conversions. So ad rank is nothing but whatever your maximum cost per click is, multiply by quality score. So I might start getting a bit technical, but once you go through these slides once again, I'm pretty sure you'll have a good understanding about what to do. Okay, so budget. Now this is really important. A lot of people say they don't have a budget. So it's really important to understand that if you do not spend enough money on Google AdWords, it will not work for you. Okay, so at times I've gone to people and said, if your marketing budget is only $200 for the next 3 months, you know what? Spend the entire $600 in 1 month and see the result. Because if you only are able to send 5 people to your website every day, don't expect a conversion. Okay, there's so much of competition online. Okay, so if you can't afford to spend every day, spend twice a week, or spend for a couple of hours in a day, whatever it is, but make sure that you are not just setting up a very basic campaign on Google and let it run its own. One of the key factors to make your Google AdWords successful is you got to constantly monitor it and make sure that you're not burning your dollars. You're not spending money on certain campaigns which don't mean anything to you. Okay, it's really important to fine-tune your campaign on a regular basis. Otherwise, the only thing you're doing is you're donating money to Google. If you set up your campaign and you go and just check once in a month, you're not going to get anything out of it. What also is interesting is a lot of people who do Google AdWords on their own have got no clue. All they know is that they have to create a campaign, they have to select a couple of keywords and point people to their website. That's definitely not the way Google AdWords is going to work. And I think that's the kind of line that we think about. I don't have the skill set. Should I do it or not do it, or should I go to someone else? The other problem with Google AdWords also is that there are a lot of people who are making money in the name of Google, and this is what Google is facing a challenge worldwide. There are a lot of providers who claim that they work with Google, and it's quite interesting because Google has got different layers of what do you call partnership. So for example, if you do a 3 hour course on Google's site called as a Google Sales Professional, you get a certificate from Google saying you're a Google Certified Sales Professional. That's 3 hours of effort. If 2 people within your company do a Google Sales Professional certificate, you become a Google Certified company because you've got 2 people working who know Google AdWords. Okay, then you got the next level where you got an agency where you've gone to Google and said, I'm happy to promote Google. But right on top, there's another layer called as a Google Premier Partner. And what's interesting is that in Australia, there could be close to around, nothing less than 70 or 80,000 Google certified professionals. There could be around, 3,000 Google certified companies, but there are only 7 or 8 Google Premier Partners. Now, the biggest difference with Google Premier Partners is they need to be totally transparent. Okay, the biggest challenge with Google or pay-per-click advertising for most businesses is they have no clue how much money is getting spent. Okay, and that's the reason why, imagine you pay someone $500 and that company is only spending $200. So your success is not based on 500, your success is based on 200, and a lot of times you have no clue to find out how much is really spent. So what Google has done is, because it was earning a bad name, it said, okay, we've got these premier partners, they are totally transparent. So for example, we are one of them. So every month I literally have to go and give Google all the client details that we have doing AdWords for. We are totally transparent. We have to sign a declaration. If I'm not transparent, I'll lose my certification. So when you look at doing Google AdWords, if you plan to do with someone else, you got to make sure that the person is transparent, and at the same time you know exactly how much they're spending. Okay. The other way to look at your ROI on PPC is, it's really important, okay, to know when your campaign is not working, because it's going to cost you. You can't just say I'll wait for the end of the month and then switch it off. If you feel for a week a certain campaign didn't work, just pause it till you find out what is happening. Maybe go back to Google Analytics and find out where are people dropping out from. Try to find out what is not working on your website. The next thing also to understand is that not all clicks are equal. There are certain keywords that will convert better. There are certain keywords will help you build a brand but not sell. Okay. One of the biggest challenge for most businesses, they don't know when to stop their AdWords, whether they're doing it on their own or getting someone else to do it. Okay. So, and that's mainly got to do with, if you don't know how to measure success, you're just going by a gut feeling and saying, I think it's working. The other thing important is you always need to test. If something doesn't work, let's say you've got an offer on a website. Okay. Have an offer on the website, have two different offers and see which works better. So it's really important to understand, how do you actually control your pay-per-click? What's your return of investment? Okay. So as I said earlier, you have to watch out for your quality score. Okay. Quality score is the key factor. The better the quality score, and you can easily find your quality score when you log on to your Google AdWords campaign. You only have to go down to, there are additional columns. So you got to go down and find the columns on where your quality score is. Okay. So there's literally quality score for every campaign or keyword you run. So if certain keywords are not running properly or the quality score is bad, you're not going to get any results out of it. It also is important to understand that it's just not the number of keywords people are searching for. I mean, if you're going to be targeting the most popular keywords, all you're doing is you're paying more and more money to Google, because as the keyword is more in demand, the cost per click goes up. But nowadays, a lot of the generic keywords, the cost per click is going down, because most companies who spend money on Google AdWords, they realize that the money or the conversions is not on those most search keywords. It's on those long tail keywords. It's about understanding, what converts better. Okay. So as you go after the long tail keywords, you will find that you get better conversions. And what is really amazing is that, and this is right from Google, is that of all the searches that happen on the internet, 1/5 of them are unique searches, and they've never happened ever on Google search. So you can imagine that the way people search on the internet today or on Google is changing. Okay. If you get 20 people into a room and tell each of them to go and search for a certain product on their smartphone, you'll be surprised that almost everyone will have a unique way of selling or searching. Someone might just type in one single keyword, someone might put in 4 keywords in it, and so on. So it's really important to spend more time researching your keywords and see what it converts. Again, Google AdWords is a great platform to test your search engine optimization program. If you don't want to do Google AdWords, that's perfectly fine. But imagine if you start doing your search engine optimization, which is like a 12 months program. So you do your, you go by a gut feeling and say, I want to be on the first page of Google for these keywords. After 12 months, you actually go on the first page of Google for those keywords. But guess what? Those keywords are not converting for you. So you literally wasted 12 months going after the wrong kind of market. So even if you don't want to use Google AdWords as a long-term strategy, it's a great tool to test the market. If you're launching a new product, you're not sure how to price it, use Google AdWords. If you got a new concept in mind, rather than spending 3-4 months building up a website, create a landing page, drive 500 people to it, and see what the uptake is. Okay, you'll be surprised with the amount of domains that get registered on a monthly basis. Okay, I mean, the competition online is literally 100 times more compared to what you see offline. So unless you have a unique selling point, unless you do something special, you got to really look at what it is. So if you do your Google AdWords properly, okay, you will get a better return of investment. Okay, if you do not constantly monitor it, if you say I'm going to do it once a month, it's not worth it. Sometimes it's really worthwhile paying someone money to manage it better if they have the right tools and they have the right knowledge. I know I'm talking only of Google AdWords, but it basically rolls onto everything. A good thing to do is that if you got a budget of $300 or $500, don't spend everything on Google. Spend some on Google, some on Yahoo, Bing, because end of the day, if there is traffic for searches on Yahoo or Bing and people are clicking on it, it doesn't make a difference whether those customers are coming to you from Google or Yahoo. A customer is a customer. It doesn't make a difference. So, it's really important that, but the biggest advantage is that you'll see that the cost per click on Yahoo will literally be 40% lesser than what you would pay for on Google. At times I've actually gone back to businesses who had a budget of $200 and said, don't spend money on Google AdWords, only spend it on Yahoo. Because at $200 a month with Google AdWords is less than $10 a day. So if your cost per click is $4, you can send 2 people to your website. What's the chance of converting? Nothing. You might as well not spend that money. One of the other ways to improve your conversions is to look at what we call as landing pages. Now, landing pages are quite effective because they help your sales process. Sometimes, your objective is for the phones to ring, or you want people to send you an inquiry. So if your website has got hundreds of pages, okay, it could be a bit of a distraction for someone planning to contact you. So it's really advisable that if you've got a large website and if you feel that when you're sending people to your website, your conversions are not increasing, it's worthwhile trying to do is set up a separate landing page. What the landing page does is that keeps people focused, gives them the information that they wanted in a very simple format. It's like, imagine if I give you a 10-page catalog and a 1-page catalog. You can decide faster with a 1-page catalog because everything is put to you in the way you want it. You may not have the time to look at all the pages. You may not decide right away. You would like to come back later on. But what are the chances of you coming back again to the same website? So depending upon the kind of business you're into, landing pages can make a difference. It may not really work well for an e-commerce store, but it'll work for a website that generates leads and so on. Or if you want to build up a mailing list, maybe if you want to increase people signing up to your social media front, perfect thing to do is to, a landing page. And landing pages really give you a better conversion rate compared to websites because it's very focused. But before you create a landing page, look at a couple of things. Make sure that your customers like the information that you're going to provide them. Okay, make sure that there's enough call to action for someone to take the next step. A call to action could be to call you up, to fill an inquiry form, or to download something. Okay, try to understand the technical limitation of your audience. Sometimes you could have a massive website and it could be a disaster on a mobile device, and you'll be surprised at the amount of people who actually go online on a mobile device to search for things. So rather than spending thousands of dollars designing a mobile website, you might as well test the market doing a landing page for your AdWords and see what is a conversion rate. Okay, it's a good thing to have a unique domain name for your landing page. It just makes it easier for people to be reassured of what they do. Okay, and then also look at what is competition doing. If you're running Google AdWords, look at the people in the top 3 position, see what the user experience is. So if you are a customer, out of the 3 websites, what are the things attracted you the most? Is that there on your website? If not, make sure you have that on your landing page. Okay. The good thing about landing page is you as a supplier or a seller, you're in control of what you want your customers to travel to your website or where they want to go. That's the biggest advantage of a conversion of a landing page. So if you want to optimize your your landing pages, you got to make sure that you're not throwing too much of information on them. Okay, don't give them too much of options. Okay, try to see whether you can localize a call to action. Okay, and make sure that if you got a nice video and if you think people like to see a video of your product or whatever it is, put in a video, or have something which is quick and easy for them to understand. But in kind of a nutshell, if you look at when talk about return of investment, there are a couple of things you got to look at is when you do your AdWords campaign. First thing is make sure that you have a negative keyword campaign. Don't go after keywords which don't convert. For example, if we had to bid on hosting, it'll be foolish enough for me to bid on the word free hosting. Someone is typing in free hosting clearly tells me they don't want to spend money for hosting. So there's no money for me in that. Why should I bother for the word free hosting? Okay. Other thing also, look at not just Google. Look at Google, look at Yahoo, and maybe Facebook. Okay. Don't just look at text. Maybe look at display ads, look at video ads, look at remarketing campaigns. They really work well. Okay. Really important, it's all about location. If you are providing a service which is location based, make sure that you are specifying it. Okay. Make an offer people can't refuse. Okay. Get people to contact you. Okay. Because if you have a salesperson, by all means you can convert better on a phone than on a website. Okay. I mean, it's that people love to talk, they love to have a conversation. Today, because of the massive amount of success on online business, nowadays we don't even talk to people before we make a buying purchase or before we buy something. Imagine if you're able to give that level of support to someone who can talk to you or meet you. It just improves your conversion rates. We've seen that happening with our business. What we've been doing is I've been doing webinars often. What I realize, unfortunately, on a webinar, it's purely a one-way street. You guys need to tolerate me for the next 1 hour. That's because I'm doing all the talking. So the level of engagement on webinars is not that much. But if I get you all guys into a room in our office, and do a complete workshop, you're going to see more value in it. You're going to get more convinced. I'm pretty sure each of you all might have certain questions about your business or whether it's suitable or not. Unfortunately, webinar may not be the right platform. So the good thing about a landing page or doing your improving your conversion is that look at how do you engage someone and just make them take small steps to reach out to you. Okay. The other thing is important is that a lot of businesses spend money on Google AdWords and drive everything to your home page. Your home page is not the best landing page. Okay, it's an entry point. It's like you have a retail store, and imagine on the display you can't put everything. Okay, you can only put the most important things to get people in. Okay, think about that. Put the same logic to what you do online. I mean, the people who shop offline and the people who shop online are the same people. They have the same habits. So they're going to take the same approach that they do when they shop when they buy from a shop. So why will it change when they shop online? Okay. Most importantly is quality score. You got to make sure that you focus on quality score. If you don't understand quality score, the first thing I would say, go on to your AdWords campaign, try to find out where your quality score, and try to find out where you stand. If your quality score is from 0 to 10, if it's less than 7, believe me, it's not that campaign is not going to work for you, or it's not going to give you the return of investment that you want. Most importantly, you got to make sure that you are measuring and monitoring it regularly. So when you look at all this stuff, then you got to go back and ask yourself, is PPC right for me? Do I have a unique selling point? So if you fall into one of these segments, then yes, it'll work for you. Because otherwise, maybe you're still better off being found organically. Okay. Google AdWords or a pay-per-click has definitely got good benefits, but not a lot of people get it right. Okay, it's all about making sure that you've attracted someone for something very specific. Okay, when they come to your website, is that message clear, and does it go on the way it is? Okay, so you got to go and have a look at your business again, have a look at your website and see whether do you think if I send 10 people to my website, how many of them will actually contact me? So it's not just PPC. You got to look at your website, because that's the last thing. That's where everything happens. Unfortunately, 95% of people spend all their time and efforts just driving people to their website. It's just like the same old thing. You can spend a lot of money marketing it on for your retail business, but imagine if the salesperson or if your display in your retail store is crap. You're not going to convert anything. So what's the point? I have tried to cover a lot of things in 1 hour. I know I might have flown through a couple of points, but this is the best I can do in a matter of 60 minutes. Okay, so the last thing I want to leave you guys with is, sometimes uh, it's good to get someone else to do it, provided you can find someone who you think you can trust on and see value in it. There's a reason for outsourcing, because if you got only one website, okay, and I tell this to a lot of people who plan to do their own online marketing, nowadays you got to do SEO, you got to do AdWords, you got to do social media. You definitely can outsource your SEO and AdWords. You cannot outsource social media. So if you got only 1 hour in a day or half an hour in a day to spend on your website, you better spend that time on social media, because unfortunately you cannot get someone else to get passionate about your business. Okay. The other thing also is that with regards to pay-per-click, if you don't do it right, you're burning your money. Okay, you might as get someone who can do it better for you. Okay, and get you better results, then look at it. Because if you're going to be only spending $300 or $500 in a month, how much is it worth your time? Or maybe in other words, to run a decent campaign in a month, you at least need to spend 10 hours of quality time on your website. The question you got to ask yourself is, how much is 10 hours of your time worth for your business? Okay, I'm not saying every company does a great job, okay, but you need to find a way of finding what's a good company. Do they understand what it is? Are they after my money, or they understand what I'm doing and accordingly work with that? Okay, so finally, before I finish off, as I said earlier, there are a couple of things I can further assist you with. One is, if you've got any questions, feel free to send me an email. Okay, I will come back to you and I'll give you some further guidance at what you should do. If you want a copy of your of the PowerPoint presentation, shoot me an email. I'll send you a copy. The only other thing I would like to also add on, which I've not put on the slide, is that as I said earlier, webinars are good, but then it's always a one-way street. I often do workshops in our office in Sydney, that's in Broadway, where I get around 12 to 14 businesses into the office once a month, and I spend 4 hours helping them understand what they should do, helping them understand what is wrong with their website. And one of the other good things is that it's just not me telling what's wrong with their website. There are 12 or 13 other people in that room who are into a similar business, or they're doing business online. You will get feedback from people who have seen your website for the first time. I've started doing it once a month. This time I'm doing it twice, because the last time I did, a lot of people could not turn up. Again, it's a free event. The way I work is that I spend a lot of time educating myself on online marketing, and I feel that it's no point keeping it to myself. So I'm really happy to share that, and I'm going to do a workshop in Sydney on the 26th of September. It's normally from 9 to 1:30. If you need some information about that, I'm happy to send you some more details. That's only if you're based in Sydney, unfortunately. But and finally, before I leave, what I would really like is, if you feel that whatever I talked about made sense, you see value in it, I would request you, if you're happy, to go and share your comments on our Facebook page. That will only help us to reach out to more people. So if you can just go on to Net Registry's Facebook page, and whether it's good or bad, totally acceptable, but I would really appreciate if if you're happy to give us some kind of feedback. That will only help me to reach out more to more people and educate them. Thank you very much, and as I said, anything, you can always shoot me an email and I'll get back to you. And thanks for attending.